What is going on, everybody? What is going on? The Catch fam, my name is John Dawson, and in today's video, we are hopping into a full PPR 10-team mock draft for the 2023 fantasy football season. It is mock draft season. If you guys have any mock draft requests, this is what I do every month of August for you guys. Drop them in the comments section down below, regardless of format. 8 teams, 14 teams, full PPR, half PPR, 3 wide receivers, super flex, whatever you guys need. Let me know. I will get it put on the schedule and make a video just like this one where I give you guys round by round roster construction advice. So as long as you guys are subscribed to the channel, I'm happy to do that for you. So hit that subscribe button on the way in if you guys are new. Hit the like button whether you guys are new or not. And any other comments, questions, concerns you guys have pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season, drop them down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Without further ado, let's not waste any more time. Let's hop into today's mock draft. All right, so for the purpose of today's video, we are sitting at the 1.6 overall. Let's take a look at the roster settings here. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex, kicker and defense, because it's August, enough of you guys play with it that we'll keep it in there, and 5 bench spots. So we will be running some more of these pre-recorded videos, streams, whatever, where we have 2 flex spots, just so you guys know. But a majority of leagues are still playing 1 flex spot. I will have plenty of double flex videos out for you guys. But nonetheless, here at the 1.6, we're either doing one of 2 things. We're taking a wide receiver or we're going hero running back. You know, for this draft, we'd be picking Austin Eckler if we go hero running back. But I'm going to go ahead and take Cooper Kupp because I do think he's a good value at the 1.6. Even with the hamstring injury, like, yeah, I'm a little concerned. There's some bad reports kind of coming out surrounding it. At the end of the day, at this point in August, I'm still taking Cooper Kupp. If you go with Austin Eckler there and go hero running back, that's completely fine as well. But I'll take a stud wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, who, you know, with his time with Matthew Stafford, has never not scored double-digit fantasy points. So, like, I don't know. I'm still taking the risk on Cooper Kupp, but obviously as August progresses, that opinion may change. And, you know, what we're going to do at the 2.5 more than likely is select a running back. Unless there's a wide receiver who falls there who I feel like we just can't pass on, we're probably going to go running back there. You know, in these 10-team formats, the 2 strategies that I'm looking at are hero running back or just straight up 0 running back and like drafting 4 wide receivers in your first 4 rounds. But more than likely, I'm probably just going to try and go hero running back here. I don't know. The way this draft is going at the moment, there's actually a chance that Amon-Ra St. Brown falls to us. And if he doesn't, like, you still have Adams and Garrett Wilson there compared to even players like Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard, who I like in the second round. Full PPR, I probably like those wide receivers more. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson here, and then we're going to go hunting for the best potential value running back at 3.6 as our hero running back. But, I mean, that's the thing. Like, every draft is different. You know, it just depends on who's sitting there. For me, Garrett Wilson, who I have ranked pretty high and is typically going at the beginning of the second round, every now and then at the end of the first round, I just have to take right there, you know, especially if a player like Amon-Ra St. Brown is available. I'm not passing on him. And don't get me wrong, like, Devontae Adams still not drafted. You can still take Devontae Adams over Garrett Wilson if you like him more. But I think I take the younger guy there because Cooper Kupp, a little bit older. His quarterback's older. I mean, don't get me wrong, Aaron Rodgers is old. But, you know, I don't know. I just think with Cooper Kupp having the lingering injury potentially, and then, you know, at the end of the day, Garrett Wilson being younger brings that upside. We'll go Garrett Wilson there. But a lot of good available wide receivers there, nonetheless. All right, so like I said, we are looking for the best potential value running back at 3.6. So let's take a look at who that could potentially be. Derrick Henry's not going to fall out. I mean, there is a chance that Jonathan Taylor or Josh Jacobs falls out, but I'm just not mock drafting them right now because they're into such a gray area. Their ADP could, you know, absolutely skyrocket if they sign with their respective teams or they get traded. I just don't think it's a realistic look at this point in the offseason to draft them at this point. So I'm not going to do that, but let's take a look at some names that could be there. Ramondre Stevenson, like the clear-cut best overall value, but he probably won't fall. Breece Hall is okay right there. You know, obviously the injury is still a little bit concerning, and the fact that the Jets are still looking at other potential free agent running backs, might sign Dalvin Cook, whatever, kind of concerning, but he's okay right there because he does bring a good amount of upside. Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, perfectly fine, but quite frankly, the players that I like the most are Jahmyr Gibbs and Kenneth Walker. So if Gibbs is right there, I'm smashing the draft button. Just a ton of upside that he brings to the table. yeah, it's a little risky to look at, your potential hero running back RB1 as a rookie, but it's a run heavy team. Gibbs brings a ton of upside. I just like Gibbs quite a bit. And I really like Kenneth Walker. It's a little early compared to ADP. There are a lot of names here, so I probably won't take him. But I do really like Kenneth Walker. I mean, he could be there at the 4.5. You never know. But I think Walker's going to have a good year. So, yeah, look at this tier of running backs. Let me know in the comments down below, not including Jonathan Taylor because of his situation, but Brees Hall, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, or Jahmyr Gibbs. Who do you guys like the best? I don't think you can really go wrong there. So we'll take Gibbs off the board. And then at the 4.5, we're going to take the best available wide receiver, fill in that flex spot with a player that we trust. And then at the 5.6, it's going to depend on how the draft board looks overall. So, I do think one unique advantage to a 10-team format is that you can fade quarterback and still end up with a really good elite tier value quarterback. Like you can still land Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, every now and then, even Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson at a really good overall value compared to the draft. So, we're going to probably take a breather and not think about quarterback just yet because traditionally in these mock drafts that I've been running, I've been fading quarterbacks. So keep in mind, like we're still going to try and get an elite tier quarterback, that first overall tier. Maybe the first overall tier is Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, but moving into that second tier of players that could absolutely still be elite this year, I think after Trevor Lawrence, it drops off. I think we can kind of hold off and try and land Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence, maybe Justin Fields. So we'll go wide receiver here at the 4.5, and at the 5.6, probably getting our second running back. If not, there might be a wide receiver sitting there who I feel like is too good of a value. I don't mind going out and getting our first bench wide receiver before our second running back because in full PPR formats, I want a wide receiver on the bench that I trust, that at any point in the season I can fill in at the wide receiver 2 spot, the flex spot, due to injuries potentially, due to bye weeks, whatever it may be, that we can trust. And I'm going to go ahead and take Amari Cooper here, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin. There are plenty of names that I like right there, but I'll take Cooper, your wide receiver 10 in fantasy last year. This offense will be more efficient this year. Deshaun Watson, a full off season. They're going to throw the ball more, less defensive pressure for Amari Cooper. Elijah Moore, part of that offense now. You still got DPJ, David Njoku. They drafted Said Tillman. The run game's going to be good with Nick Chubb. Hopefully Jerome Ford, even with that injury popping up the other day. Nonetheless, I'll take Cooper all day long as my first flex wide receiver. And even in a 10-team format, a pretty good value there at the 4.5, but also in the late third round, some pretty good values. T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, and even Deebo Samuel to a degree, all good values, especially Calvin Ridley. I mean, a lot of times he's going closer, even in 10-team formats, to like the 3.2, 3.3 range. So Ridley looks like a good value today. Nonetheless, let's move along here. It's going to be kind of interesting. Do we want to go running back at the 5.6 or wide receiver? No matter what, with these next 3 picks, we're getting our RB2, we're getting our quarterback, and we are getting our first bench wide receiver. So let's just kind of follow the board. We have seen 3 quarterbacks gone. I think if we wait till the 7.6, I just think it's too risky. There goes Lamar. I just don't know if we're going to land one of those top tier guys. But I think we can wait till the 6.5 and still be okay. So we'll see what happens here. In terms of wide receivers, there are a lot of good names. If DJ Moore is available here, I'll probably take DJ Moore. I love him as a flex option, our first bench wide receiver. But there are a lot of good names. I mean, Keenan Allen, D-Hop, McLaurin, if you like those guys, they're still there. Jerry Jeudy, Drake London, Christian Watson, and even guys who I'm not afraid to draft against their ADP, like Brandon Ayuk and like Christian Kirk, are available. So the way things are looking right now, I'm probably going wide receiver with this next pick. But, when we look at running backs, Kamara, Pierce, Dobbins, Madison, Swift, Akers, I think we can get a running back, of equivalent value at the 6.5 if we decide to fade quarterback even more. And if not, a decent enough value, comparatively speaking, at the 7.6. So there goes DJ Moore. That might slightly change things. I don't really want Kamara as my RB2, though. I like him more as an RB3 at this point in the offseason. So, I think we go ahead and go wide receiver here. you can't really go wrong. There are a ton of good options, but let's go for some upside. Let's go Christian Watson right here. Drake London's perfectly fine. I don't know how much upside I think Drake London brings to the table, though. I think he's going to have a very good sophomore year, but I think it's going to be more of that kind of like consistent PPR format wide receiver, but he's fine right there. If you wanted a veteran, D Hop, McLaurin, Godwin are all sitting there, but relative to ADP, they're kind of going to be faded at the end of the day. Hopkins, yeah, Hopkins was fine last year after his suspension, but he just got a ridiculous amount of targets. And this Tennessee Titans offense that runs the football before anything, I just don't feel great, especially when you're looking at the quarterback options. Like, don't get me wrong, the Cardinals quarterbacks, after Kyler went down last year, weren't good either. But it's just like Tannehill's just like okay. Malik Willis, Will Levis, they don't excite me, so I'm just not super high on Hopkins in this range. Like I said, I like Ayuk, I like Hollywood Brown, I still like McLaurin and Godwin in full PPR. Pittman's okay. Lockett, when he falls, is perfectly fine. Mike Williams is perfectly fine. And I love Christian Kirk in this range. So there's still a lot of really good wide receivers. And in full PPR formats, I'm always tempted to just load up at wide receiver. But nonetheless, we're going to pump the brakes and either take a quarterback or running back with this next pick. So we got to look at the draft board right here. 1.8 does not go quarterback. We'll see what 1.7 does. But there are 3 quarterbacks that I like right now. The teams in front of us, there are 2 of them that don't have a quarterback. The other 3 have an elite quarterback in Hurts, Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. So if 1.7 does not go quarterback here, then I'm willing to fade quarterback until 7.6. But if he goes quarterback, we go ahead and take our quarterback at 6.6. He goes Fields. Don't get me wrong, 1.2 or 1.3 could fade quarterback. And even if they didn't, right, we could end up with Dak Prescott or Deshaun Watson, Tua, whatever. I'm just not going to risk it. Let's take Justin Herbert here. Trevor Lawrence is completely fine. I just don't want to risk it in a 10-team format. I still want some slight positional advantage at the quarterback position. We'll kind of see at the end of the draft. Every team essentially is going to have a quarterback in that elite tier, in that second elite tier, or in that third range of guys who could break into that tier in terms of fantasy this year. Even if it's Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Tua, or even if they just fade quarterback completely, there are still names like Kirk Cousins, who was their quarterback 6 last year. Geno Smith, who was their quarterback 5. Danny Dimes was their quarterback 9. Rodgers could improve. Goff could improve. Kyler Murray's floating around at the end of the draft. Maybe Russell Wilson improves. So, at the end of the day, yeah, you can risk it and go quarterback late, but I just think you give yourself a better opportunity for positional advantage if you take a guy probably by the 6th round, the way most of these 10-team mocks are looking. Nonetheless, what do we need to do next? Well, we're sitting pretty good at wide receiver, okay? Wide receiver 1 and 2 are out of the way. Wide receiver 3 or your flex is out of the way. We have a good bench wide receiver who at any point can be our wide receiver 2 or flex. We've got our hero running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. We've got our quarterback out of the way. So overall, I think we're sitting pretty okay, but we need to hammer out some running back depth. These next 2 picks, unless there's just a ridiculous value at wide receiver, I mean, like at the moment, Christian Kirk is still on the board. That's been like my guy all offseason long. He'd be pretty tough to pass on here, but when we're looking at available running backs, there are a lot of good names. So I think we just stick to the game plan. We go running back at 7.6, then running back at 8.5. Even if Christian Kirk's there, and it really pains me to pass on him, like there are still other, Mike Williams, Hollywood Brown are both available as well. And like right now, yeah, I don't know. Like one of those guys is going to be available. And it's going to pay me because when we look back at the draft, we could have potentially gone with any other player over Watson at 5.6 and then still landed Christian Kirk at the 7.6, which I don't know. The thing here is like, yes, it happened in this mock draft, but in a majority of mock drafts, it's just not happening, even in 10-team formats. So, there goes DeAndre Swift. Let's just go Rachaad White here. Let's just let someone else get Christian Kirk, stick to the game plan. I'm fine with Rachaad White in full PPR as my RB2 all day long. And it pains me to pass on Christian Kirk there because he's really one of my favorite wide receivers going into the year. I think he's just being ridiculously undervalued, and there he goes. Thank you. Like even with a team right there that has 4 wide receivers, looking at my team that has 4 wide receivers, it's still tough to pass on Christian Kirk, but we got to get that RB2 out of the way. We saw DeAndre Swift, Alexander Madison, Cam Akers gone at the beginning of the round, and now David Montgomery gone. These running backs are going to start kind of flying off of the board. There goes Mike Williams, a good value. A lot of good value running backs and wide receivers between the 6th and 7th round. Nonetheless, we have our starting roster outside of tight end set up here. Herbert, Gibbs, White, Cup, Wilson, Amari Cooper in the flex. Watson is on the bench. So more than likely, we're going running back with this next pick. I don't think we need to necessarily reach for, Hollywood Brown's going to be hard to pass on if he does kind of fall right here, but I don't think he's going to. There he goes at the 7-10, a good pick there. But like Zay Flowers and Sky Moore are kind of the two names that they're not being drafted at their ADP. They can go as early as the end of the 7th, middle of the 8th round, even in 10-team formats. They are not being drafted at their ADP. So am I going to necessarily reach for them? I don't think so. I think we go running back with this next pick no matter what. Get our 3rd running back. So for me, it's probably Isaiah Pacheco. I might take a chance on J.K. Dobbins if he's there, but I think ultimately Pacheco is our top target if he's not available. And I didn't think you'd be looking at, Team 7's build there, especially since they went Kirk in the 7th round. Pacheco makes a lot of sense for that roster, but Dobbins, James Cook, you can really go with either guy here. Let's go J.K. Dobbins. He's on the PUP list. Maybe that's related to his injuries. Maybe that's related to him holding out, winning a different contract. Who knows? I'll take the shot on him. This offense is going to be better this year. It's a Todd Monken-led offense, but the Ravens are still going to want to run the football, So Dobbins as an RB3, is he my favorite? Not necessarily, but I'll still take a chance on him, looking at this particular build. So, these running backs have some risk, but I think all 3 of these guys in PPR formats have enough upside that we'd be just fine. So, moving along to the 9.6. Going to take another running back or take the best available wide receiver. And quite frankly, the 2 wide receivers I'm looking at are Zay Flowers and Sky Moore. Believe it or not. Like I said, they are not being drafted at their ADP. And as a wide receiver 5, I love both of those names. So we'll keep an eye on them. I do like Deontay Johnson. I'll draft Mike Evans if he's there at the right value. Got to consider Quentin Johnston as well. Outside of that, maybe Cortland Sutton is the next name that I'm looking at. But other than that, I'm not going to be reaching for anyone. Let's talk about tight end, because we haven't talked about tight end yet. You might be wondering, in a 10-team format, you can fade tight end. That's my take. If you're not getting Kelsey in the first, Andrews went at 4.1 tonight. That's a really good value for Andrews, right? Hawkinson in the 5th, Goddard, Kittle, Pitts. Those are the only tight ends gone. So we're still kind of in that second elite tier. Darren Waller, Evan Ingram, Pat Freiermuth are all available. If I can get Freiermuth or Ingram, Njoku or Cole Kmet, I'm fine. And if we get in a really bad situation somehow where we don't get one of those guys, I'll just back-to-back draft Greg Dulcich and Dalton Kincaid, or just Greg Dulcich, and I'm still feeling okay in a 10-team format. So nonetheless, with this next pick, we're eyeing a couple running backs here. I may just go ahead and reach for Zay Flowers if he's on the board. Not quite sure that he'll be there, but if he is, I think I'll just go ahead and reach for him because, guys, I'm telling you, if you don't go out and get Zay Flowers when he's available, your likelihood of drafting him is just dropping day by day. And literally, go look through all the mock drafts. You don't go look through all of them, but we've been running mock drafts literally since the Super Bowl ended, essentially. And I'm telling you, ever since Zay Flowers got drafted, his ADP is literally you see a lot of content creators make, players that are skyrocketing up rankings videos. He is literally the best model of a player who is skyrocketing up rankings throughout this season. So I'll take him here if he's available. Looking at Team 5's build, they got 4 wide receivers. They can go wide receiver here. They're kind of in a spot where they can take really in any position outside of quarterback, and it makes sense. Freiermuth makes sense there, but I'll take Zay Flowers. He's going to have an opportunity to act as the primary wide receiver for the Ravens, and even if he's not, I'm not saying Rashad Bateman's completely washed and is injury prone. I'm not saying that Odell's gonna break his kneecaps week 2 or whatever. But at the end of the day, even if those guys are on the field, I think that helps a rookie wide receiver. But Zay Flowers has the tangibles, has the skill set to step up and be Lamar Jackson's primary wide receiver. Andrew's still going to do his thing, but from the wide receiver position, Flowers has all the upside in this offense. He's a great prospect. Go back and watch his tape. Dude was phenomenal in college. And I think when you look at the trends, I should say, at the wide receiver position in terms of rookie wide receivers over the past couple years in the NFL, in fantasy football, you've got to have a rookie wide receiver on your draft board, whether it's JSN, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, whoever it may be. Take a shot on one of them. More than likely, it's going to work out. So, moving along to the 10.5. If AJ Dillon's there, I think we have to take AJ Dillon as our RB4. If he's not there, we're going to go wide receiver at the 10.5 and not go running back until the 11.6, which, and we might not even go running back till the 12.5, which might make some of you guys a little queasy, but there are still enough names in late tiers like Devon Shane, Damian Harris, Jerick McKinnon, even Samaje Perine that I think are suitable in a one flex redraft format as an RB4. So, look at this roster tonight. There's a lot of risk at running back, like I mentioned earlier, excuse me, but I still think in full PPR formats right now, plenty of upside. So there goes AJ Dillon, a really good pick there. But we'll go ahead and fade running back for now. I'm okay with that. And let's go ahead and take Sky Moore, who, has been practicing with the ones in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs training camp so far. And don't get me wrong, we've seen Justin Ross on the field with them, Rashee Rice at times on the field with them, but the receiver who's getting the most snaps at the slot position and with the number one overall wide receiver group is Sky Moore. You look at his rookie season and you're like completely grossed out in terms of fantasy, but the upside is there if he is truly going to be on the field with the ones for the Chiefs all year long. Because at the end of the day, they lost McCole Hardman and they lost Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, were either of those guys fantastic last year in fantasy? No, they had some inconsistency. They had some good periods. They had injuries, whatever. But when you look at this receiving room right now with Kadarius Toney going down, and he might be ready for week 1, so maybe we don't need to panic too much about him, and maybe we don't want to forget about him. But when you look at everyone else there, Rashee Rice, who's also got banged up throughout the offseason so far, you got Richie James. We mentioned Justin Ross, and you still have MBS, who at least has chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. But and don't get me wrong, I mean this offense is never really, outside of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, the most consistent model in terms of fantasy football. But at the end of the day, there's upside there. There's a wide receiver tied to Patrick Mahomes and Sky Moore, a great wide receiver in college. This is a tough offense to learn. And I think at the end of the day, he's absolutely worth the selection. And I can definitely see why he's kind of, once again, skyrocketing up draft boards at the moment. All right, so into the 11th round we go. 2 more selections for this draft, not including kicker or defense. So what we're going to do here, we need our running back 4. There's no doubt about it. I like Devon Shane. The guy will probably draft Devon Shane before I'm drafting a tight end in this circumstance. But let's look across the draft board, teams in front of us before we draft at the 12.5. One team without a tight end. Could they go double tight end? Sure. Could one of those other teams in that position select a tight end behind Kelce and Joku or Andrews? Sure. But I think we'll be okay at tight end if we don't go tight end at 11.6, even if we have to come out of this draft with Greg Dulcich. Like, am I super ecstatic? Not necessarily, but give me Devon Shane because I think he brings a ton of upside to the table. This offense, when we look at the Miami Dolphins, I've talked about this literally since draft night. I mean, we were live during, the NFL draft, like a lot of other channels were. And once Devon Shane went to the Dolphins, it's just like, yes, this is the perfect fit. When you look at him as a college prospect, speed is the first thing that comes to mind. He's a smaller player, but I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think he will necessarily be incredibly consistent in this rookie year. But as an RB4 in redraft formats, I'm okay with that. Plug him in against those weaker defenses whenever that may be. And I think he has the potential to hit a home run at any time. Defenses have to account for Tyreek Hill, for Jalen Waddle, for the passing attack, and there are still good veteran running backs on this team. I just think when we look at McDaniel as a head coach, he's going to find ways to get Devon Shane involved to the best of his abilities, to his skill set. And I think as the season goes on, Devon Shane could be a very good value pick at the running back position. I've said that since he went to the Dolphins. I've stuck by it all off season. I am not changing my mind. So Devon Shane, Redraft formats, completely fine with them. So that fills out all of our bench spots. That's our running back room. Gibbs, White, Dobbins, A. Shane. There's probably some of you guys out there who absolutely hate that running back room. I understand it, but at least it brings upside to the table. Our wide receivers are done for the night. Cup, Wilson, Cooper, Watson, Flowers, Sky Moore. I absolutely love that wide receiver room. Super happy with the wide receivers that we're able to draft today. Going tight end at the 12.5, no matter what, whether it's Evan Ingram, whether it's Greg Dulcich, whether it's Dalton Schultz, Dalton Kincaid, we've got plenty of options here. And yeah, like Evan Ingram, I'm happy fell to us, and I don't mind Cole Kmet whatsoever. You're tied in 7 last year. Already has a chemistry with Justin Fields. That offense going to be better this year. Passing game is going to be more efficient. All that stuff. I don't mind Cole Kmet. I don't even mind him really going before Evan Ingram, but you know, typically you're going to see Evan Ingram drafted before Cole Kmet and before David Njoku. But I'll take it. I mean, he's a great value at the 12.5. It's a risky game. There are enough teams out there, even in a 10-team format, 5 bench spots, who are willing to take a second tight end. Whether they drafted Kittle or Waller, a guy who has injury history, or they just drafted a tight end in the later rounds. Maybe it's, I don't know, Njoku or Komet, who they don't have as much faith in. That you're still playing a risky game. But if we did not land Ingram there, then we're going Greg Dulcich, who I'll take a chance on, who absolutely, under Sean Payton's offense, who historically loves to utilize the tight end position, has the opportunity for a sophomore breakout season. But Ingram, a great value, probably one of the best values of this whole draft, so I'll take him all day long right there. So we're going to draft a kicker. We're going to draft a defense. Always encourage you guys, don't panic about kickers and defenses. Don't go out reaching for the Cowboys defense or Justin Tucker or whatever. You can always stream both positions. We are one of the few fantasy channels that cares about kickers and defenses still. We have must-start kickers, must-start defenses go out every week during the regular season. So we definitely give you guys plenty of advice there. But let's go ahead. I usually take a defense off the board before the kicker position, but you can stream either one, and there's a screaming value, believe it or not, in Daniel Carlson. Just the second kicker gone in this draft. He's been your kicker number 1 in fantasy the last 2 years. The Raiders, quite frankly, are probably going to suck this year, and that puts Daniel Carlson in position to kick a lot of field goals. So just remember, guys, like, good fantasy kickers aren't necessarily tied to good offenses, okay? Because good offenses score more points, okay? Look at Jake Elliott last year for the Eagles. He was a top 10 kicker in 2021. He was your kicker 8. Last year, the Eagles were one of the best, arguably the best offense in the entire NFL. He was your kicker number 21 because he just didn't need to kick field goals. Extra points help, but at the end of the day, field goals in terms of fantasy scoring is where you're going to get your money, right? So Harrison Butker, another guy, right? I mean, he hasn't been a top 10 fantasy kicker since 2019. Nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and just select the defense and call this draft today. So please, if you guys have any mock draft requests, let me know in the comment section down below. I will get it put on the schedule regardless of format and get that video out for you guys as soon as I can. Or if you guys want it to be one of my upcoming live streams, I can get that scheduled as well. We run plenty of mocks through our live streams. Be sure to join our free Discord down below, because that is where I send out our mock draft invites, and it is a place where you guys can send out your own mock drafts at any time, and real members of our fantasy community will come out, join your mock drafts, help you compete, and help you practice for the upcoming season, as opposed to hopping on ESPN or Yahoo or NFL Fantasy and mock drafting with random people who just aren't that serious, or people who leave halfway through the draft, or the computer, and leaving your mock draft with an unrealistic overall feeling of what your draft is going to look like. But nonetheless, guys, hit the like button on the way out if you guys found today's video helpful in any way. If you guys want any mock draft requests done, make sure to subscribe on the way out. This is all we do here all year round: free fantasy football content, redraft, dynasty, and best ball. Love to have you guys as a member of our community. Let's take one last look at the team. Justin Herbert at quarterback, Evan Ingram in the 12th round at tight end. Love that value still. Gibbs, Rashad White, Dobbins, A. Shane at running back. Little risky here, but I like it. I'm going to be drafting a lot of teams this year. Going to be in a lot of different leagues this year. Have some leagues where you just take a little bit of upside and risk. Nonetheless, our wide receivers, absolutely love them tonight. Love this wide receiver room. Full PPR. This is my primary focus. Cooper Kupp, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, Zay Flowers, and Sky Moore. We smashed the wide receiver spot. Starting roster, barring any injuries, Justin Herbert, Evan Ingram, Jameer Gibbs, Rashad White, Cooper Kupp, Garrett Wilson, and Amari Cooper in the flex. On the bench, we'd have Christian Watson, Zay Flowers, Sky Moore, Dobbins, and A. Shane. All guys that can move in to those wide receiver spots, those running back spots, and that flex spot. Got a great kicker value in Daniel Carlson, and got a great defense at the end of the day in the Seahawks defense, who finished as your defense 8 last year and only got better in the draft. Should improve this year as well. So overall, a great draft. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit the subscribe button, do all the YouTube stuff, check out the links down below, and that's going to wrap up today's video. So with that, I will say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and remember, you saw it here on the Catch.